Cubelic in the morning. It is Monday, January 19th. National championship game tonight. The wild part about this national championship game being tonight is that next year we'll still have another week until the national championship game. We'll just push it back even more. You thought it was late this year. Wait until next year. There are a lot of chatter about the college football playoff over the weekend. 16, 24, maybe. But we're going to dial into tonight's game. Greg McElroy is in Miami. He'll be on the call for the radio broadcast of Indiana-Miami tonight. What's the vibe down in South Florida as far as this game is concerned, G-Mac?
You know, it's been really strange, honestly. I think probably because everyone's so spread out. I mean, I haven't seen either team, but I've been to the stadium, have been to South Beach, have been to we've kind of been all over the place, but I haven't seen anybody. It's been very odd. I mean, Miami is staying in their normal routine at their facility. They're staying at the hotel. They went to the hotel on Friday, but they've been at their own facility for basically the entire time, and we don't go to campus. So it's been odd. And then Indiana, I haven't seen them a lick. I don't even know where they're staying. I know where they're staying, but I haven't spent any time with them at all, because when we had media days, which is normally when I get to visit with all the teams, I had to do TV. So it's been very weird, dude. It's a weird setup. Everyone's super fired up. There's great vibes, but everyone feels so spread out that no one really knows where anyone's at right now.
Is Indiana there? Are they going to show up?
Yes.
Okay.
95% sure there will be a game tonight. Yes.
All right. I'm just glad they're going to be there. I'm glad they're into it. Just the people you're talking to, though. The people covering the teams, people covering the game. What's the feel of where most people are on how this game plays out tonight?
Well, we're all I feel like everyone kind of sees it similarly, where everyone probably acknowledges that Indiana's the more complete team, but Miami does have a very specific recipe that they can utilize for success. I don't know if everybody trusts Miami to go 60 minutes without making a mistake, but if they can, everyone kind of acknowledges they absolutely have a chance to go and get it done. I think you and I see it kind of the same way.
Yes, I think the plan for Miami, I think we all know what that's going to be, what it's going to look like. They'll go out of their way to try and make it happen that way. I think with Indiana, it's maybe a little bit more of a question mark, but only because they have the ability and capability to do things in a different way. I keep looking back at explosive plays and maybe who attempts to press for these a little bit more. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on these, because I was kind of watching these teams over the weekend, and I love Miami's style. I love what they've done through these playoffs, maybe minus some of the calls early in that A&M game, not just early, but early and in the third quarter. But I do think there was a bit of Shannon Dawson there that was kind of feeling some pressure, kind of thinking, hey, man, if I don't create something here, there's no way we get out of here with the win. And then the defense just continued to step up. Do you feel like either team needs to press for explosive plays? And if one or the other was going to, how early, and do you think one actually does, and do you think it becomes problematic?
No, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it'd be problematic if you pressed. I just think that usually in a game like this, it is of the utmost importance to kind of let the game come to you. I've never been one that's like, all right, just heat the pedal press. It's early. You can make a mistake that can get you behind the 8 ball quickly. So I don't think either team are going to go out there. Both teams really believe in what they do. And I fully expect them to continue kind of being methodical as opposed to pressing the accelerator.
What about
you've been around these teams? How do you feel about the likelihood of them all of a sudden turning into an aggressive group?
Well, if one does, I think it's Miami, just because we've seen micro examples of that later in the year where they'll kind of look at some things and say, okay, screen game not going, run not where we want it. Now, I don't think that Shannon Dawson has been as, I don't know if I should say irresponsible, but I do think that some of those teams were irresponsible. Like when I go back and really watch what Ohio State had going for a minute against this Miami team, I don't feel like you needed to turn back into a drop-back team. When I look at what Georgia had going against Ole Miss, you should have stayed with that just a little bit more. We mentioned Miami early against A&M. Some of those calls were egregious, in my opinion. Like, they were just unnecessary and very high risk at the same time. So we've seen some examples of it in this postseason. Let's take Oklahoma against Alabama. At what point, with a double-digit lead, did they try to just settle the game down? I mean, go to the halftime with a 2-score lead and, readjust some things, look at it, maybe have a different plan for the second half, but you kept letting John Mateer be backyard ball guy, and it essentially cost you the game. Now, Ty Simpson played great, too, and the offense came back, but there have been examples of it in this postseason where I've wondered why folks couldn't just settle down on something that seemed to be working. And that's where I look at tonight and say, because obviously these two teams are what they are, like you stated. There's also a ton of pressure in this game. And you wonder if one side feels it earlier or not, to say, all right, this isn't there. Let's try to push the ball downfield. Let's try to see if we can work something down the field. And these are not two teams that I would want to spend a ton of time in the pocket against.
No, you don't want – I don't think you want to spend a ton of time in the pocket at all. I think it's going to be a real process of feeling out, though, because so much of it's going to depend on the run game in this game. Like, I see it as whoever runs the ball, hammers the football, runs the football. It's going to be in a really good spot. I think Miami wants to find out early, like, all right, hang on. How well do we move these guys? Like, because if we can move them, like, I think we can. I'm sure they're going into it like, I think we can move them. They're not the biggest guys in the world. They do a lot of movement stuff. It's hard to hit a moving target, but I like our chances. I mean, A&M moved a lot, and we moved them. I like their chances of being able to do that, but I think that's what Miami wants to find out. And then for Indiana, I think the big thing for them is, can we hold up protection one-on-one? If we can, then we're in really good shape. And they have a really good left tackle. Right tackle is okay. If we can hold up one-on-one and we can get 4 or 5 out in the pass routes, like, we're in really good shape.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to find that out too quickly by having some long, slow developing dropbacks. It's got to be like, your typical 3-step, 2.5-second, get it out type of throws. And then you might be able to get a pretty good sense. But I think that's where we're going to find out in the first quarter tonight.
You do get, though, some running backs that are good in protection for Indiana. You get a tight end that obviously can be a big help in protection, and those will be of assistance specifically with what Mesidor and Bain are able to do up front for this Miami defense. When you look at Indiana defensively, you mentioned being moved. We've discussed it on this show, how at times they have been, but they always seem to have replacement defenders show up exactly when they need to. They seem to be sound when it comes to contain, when it comes to fitting the run with guys that maybe are next in line after those who were moved. And some of the times the movement is what actually moves them a little bit further with how they play up front. Do they get a little extra aggressive up front? How do they manage with maybe seeing an offensive line that could be able to push them with what they're going to get with Miami tonight?
I don't know. Like, you answer me that question, because I think you're probably way more equipped to answer it. Like, I have not seen Indiana get just bludgeoned. I haven't seen it happen. I've seen them get pushed a little bit. For being a relatively undersized group, it's pretty amazing how little they get pushed hard off the ball. What do you think about that?
They don't get bullied, no. But if you pay close attention to it, you mentioned it the first time around against Oregon. It happened the second time around against Oregon also. Now, this is where being a great team comes into play, because some of the times when teams have found some success in the run game, they haven't been in a great spot in the game to just continue to run the football. And that's where I think they're overly problematic, is that situationally they are not going to put themselves in bad spots and usually put you in bad spots. So you can't just lean on that if it is going a little bit. And let's be real, Greg, we talk about this all the time. How many of these offensive coordinators are truly patient these days? I mean, they literally can't do it. And defensive coordinators, to a certain extent, got there this year with all the movement up front, specifically on the defensive lines. Nowadays, it's we got to slant, we got to twist, we got to have something, we got to show creepers, we got to do something up front on every single snap because we think we can cause more problems that way. So I think one part of it is it's okay if we get moved a little bit, because we know good and well there are not a lot of teams not named Iowa that are going to actually run the football 35 times in a game. They just won't do it. So it hasn't been overly problematic, which makes it more intriguing tonight, because Shannon Dawson and Miami have proved we will sit there and hand it off 17 times in a drive if that's what's working.
Well, that's the thing is I feel like the bigger the game, the more patient you must be.
I would love
You
to.
have to be.
I agree with that, and I would love for a lot of OCs to agree with that as well. But how many actually do is the question.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like our example though, the best example to me from Shannon Dawson this year was Ohio State. Everyone said going into that game, "Oh, you can't run it on the Buckeyes. Oh, that can't be done. Look how pros." Like,
That's a good point.
And they did. They came right out. They said, "We think we can run it. We're gonna lean into it." And I think, all right, in the regular season when you're playing against the Pittsburghs of the world and the teams they played in November, with all due respect to them, not good football operations. So as a result, I think Shannon Dawson sprinkled in some trickery. They sprinkled in some of the MAXXX, just some fun stuff, just kind of get the guys re-engaged. He's got their full attention in this game. Like, I'd bet we don't see Malachi Toney in the Wildcat. I bet and this is just a hunch. Like, I have no reason to believe that. I just would be surprised. The Wildcat in the postseason has not been successful, so they're probably not going to run it. Like, they've tried it 2 or 3 times, but you're better off getting Malachi Toney out there on a smoke screen at the line of scrimmage, because then you're one-on-one with the defensive back, and that's what you're trying to get anyways. Like, give me one-on-one with the defensive back. Why do I want to run through 300-pounders to get there? So I bet we don't see that. I think you're going to see a real commitment to the run. And I think in big games like this, oftentimes they are lost more often than they're won with a significant mistake. Like, you cannot make a mistake in this game. Like, we won a national championship because Garrett Gilbert tried to pitch the ball before the half when he was getting destroyed, and Marcel Darius took it back to the house and punched it in. Like, we capitalized on mistakes that day. Like, I think if you look at over the course of time, national championship games, you can maybe point to a mistake or two that led to the dam breaking for the other team. So I just think if he can be patient against Ohio State, he can be patient against Indiana, because I think Indiana doesn't match up as well from a size speed standpoint as Ohio State does. Like, to me, I think Ohio State's a tougher matchup for Miami. As crazy as that sounds.
I don't think I'd push back on that. And honestly, I think the only example that I might offer you up that was even better than that one, you bring up a great point with what that front seven was that made it impressive that they stuck with it. I'll bring up the Ole Miss game as maybe one that was even further to that point. Now, the people weren't saying those things about that front, but you and I knew what Eccles and Harris and those guys were. Uman Mielen played better in that game than he had maybe the previous few. So to go out in that game against that offense and then have the game only be a 4-point game, maybe there's some positives there that you look at and say, don't get scared that we're only ahead by 4. Be happy that the plan is working and stick with it and continue to ride with it. And that's one where he did continue to stay with it and then had to have some different calls late and made them, just like in the A&M game. Went back to it, then stuck with it in the fourth quarter. It worked, needed a couple big calls down the stretch, got them and won the game. So I don't lack confidence in Shannon Dawson at all. I think he's got Mario in his ear saying, good and well what got us here. Do not get away from it. Keep going with it. It's just now I think the advantage may lie a little bit with Indiana in that how they want to play them and how they're going to operate with it. But I'm also with you on if Miami's getting a good push, because it hasn't been really north and south, the movement that they've given up. A lot of it's been kind of east and west with some gap scheme stuff, guys blocking down and maybe remove them an extra gap over, or they move and it's a gap scheme run and they take themselves out of a play, similar things to that nature. So all part of what makes this game intriguing tonight, makes this game fun tonight. Obviously, the off-the-field storylines are all over the place. Indiana, historically, what they have been, being here now. Mario going back to Miami. Some great quotes from him over the weekend discussing how he was just sick of seeing what his school was doing, sick of seeing how things were going, and he had to go fix it. He had to go change it, and he felt like he was the only guy to do it. His brother telling him, if you're so tired of it, go down there and fix it. Do it yourself, because nobody else is going to get it done. It's just incredible to see him back at his alma mater. This hasn't happened. And to be able to go and win a national title there would be special for him. For Indiana to get one would be unbelievable. We're going to continue all of these. We're going to talk them throughout the course of the show today. 800-239-9569. You want to be a part of the show, you can tweet in at McElroy, be a part of the show there. Watch us live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. Flu season here. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a Trane. What does Paul Finebaum think about tonight? What would it mean historically for either Mario to get this title or Indiana to grab this national championship? We'll ask him next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. National championship game coming up tonight from Miami with Miami in it. Heading up against Indiana. Losing his team in college football history. Now back-to-back seasons in the college football playoff and a chance to pick up a title this season. That does mean no SEC team in it. And with the college football playoff concluding tonight, there was a lot of noise over the weekend about what it may look like as early as next year, and it might be very different. We'll ask Paul Finebaum that. He joins us each and every week right here on the Higginbotham Hotline, thanks to our friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, crane works, rental works, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Finebaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it. The big dog's got it. Now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul, always great to welcome you in on a Monday morning. When you look at historically what this game could be with Mario Cristobal going back to his alma mater, getting a national title, Indiana, where they've been winning this national title, what win is best for college football tonight, in your opinion, and why?
Well, I really believe it's Indiana because from a national standpoint, it is one of the more unique and really unbelievable stories in the history of college football. And if Indiana can pull this off, it just knocks down and if anything shatters those walls that have been up around college football for so long, that only the elite can survive, that only the blue bloods can win. And quite frankly, there have been very few exceptions to those rules. I mean, every once in a while, someone sneaks in there. BYU snuck in there. You had the dual titles with Georgia Tech and Colorado 30 some odd years ago. But mostly it's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Clemson. And the fact that a program that everybody knows the history about could get in and win, I think shows that this is a different sport than many of us, if not all of us, thought it was.
It would be pretty remarkable, Paul, and it would officially indicate the new world order that we're living in. That if you build it, they will come, and you can do it, which I think is great. But I also think it applies another layer of pressure to a place like Auburn. It applies another layer of pressure to a place like Oklahoma State. You know, these are places that all of a sudden now they're going to sit there and say, we just spent a ton of money on a coach. We spent a bunch of money on the roster. The coach should have success in year two like Cignetti. Not to that extreme, but does it make it harder for the programs that are trying to elevate when Indiana just did so brilliantly?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Auburn. I remember sitting with John Cohn about a year and a half ago, and he was going on and on about how Hugh Freeze inherited a dumpster fire and how they had no players, and look at what they've done now. And the whole point was give him time, and patience will be rewarded. Well, this shatters that, because you could put everybody's, whatever situation you want to point to, Kalen DeWar taking over at Alabama, or Nick Saban at Alabama, or Hugh Freeze over after Brian Harsin, and none of them compared to what Curt Cignetti did at Indiana. So I think it really silences all these athletic directors who want to spin the audience about patience, and even for Alex Golesh, he's talking about blowing up the program because so many players have left, and in due time. But in due time doesn't work anymore. If this happens, and I think it has to happen tonight. The Indiana story is extraordinary, but if Miami ends up winning, people will only regard it as a great story. They won't regard it as the finished product. And as far as Miami, that's another great story. It's also a story of patience, but it just happens to be at Miami, a program that has been there so many times that we don't look at it through the same prism.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. With all the talk around the college football playoff concluding tonight, Paul, there was a lot of chatter over the weekend about where things may go. One league wanting 16, another league wanting 24. What's the latest you're hearing? What's your expectation today of what this playoff may look like as soon as next season?
Well, I mean, you can only regard what you heard people walking out of the meeting, and obviously at the end of the meeting yesterday, with 4 days to go before the deadline, nothing was settled. Now, I don't know if you're going to settle something. I don't know why you have to wait all this time, go into a room in Miami, and try to figure it out. This is a two-person decision. Everyone knows that. It's between Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti. Sankey told me recently that he and Petitti talk all the time. Well, if they talk all the time and they haven't settled this, then I think it would indicate as of this hour that next year the playoff is going to look exactly like it looked this year.
Why is it that Petitti, and I'm I lean on Greg Sankey here. He's been in college football for a really long time. He's grown up in the sport. I think he really knows what's best for it. People will say that I have SEC bias. I just think that he's got more tenure. And that's to me, I would lean towards tenure in a scenario like this in an ever-changing landscape. I cannot wrap my head around 2014 field. I just can't. So why is it that Tony Petitti is digging in on this, Paul?
I can't answer that very well, Greg, other than to say I agree with you. Not only does Greg Sankey have tenure, he has the best interests of his member institutions at hand. He's also an institutionalist, which means he really does care about the game. Tony Petitti doesn't care about that. He's a hired gun, and he comes from a television marketing big league world where he's been in the MLB, he's been in Major League television, major network television. He's thinking about how does this look from a television standpoint. And Greg and Cole, I don't know what in the world and how you could possibly make it work with 24 teams. I mean, we are sitting here on January 19th. Next year, the game will be 6 days later. And I don't need to tell you, you've covered all the games, Greg, but I mean, it's fairly exhausting. It's a fatiguing run, especially when all the obvious problems, and this is not necessarily the moment to start talking about the obvious problems, but the problem is the date on the schedule, not so because it's so late in the month. It's just because it's right in the middle of the biggest story in sports, and that's the NFL. And where if you're in Miami today, if you're in Indiana, you're riveted to what we are talking about here. But most major markets in the country are waking up to hearing about the Rams winning in overtime and hearing about the controversial call on Saturday. Oh, and by the way, here's the game. I'm not making light of the CFP. We all know how important it is. It's Indiana is one of the most remarkable stories in college football history, but we also know the reality of the NFL. And if you go to 24, it's certainly not ending any sooner than it is right now.
It's a fair point that you make, Paul. I mean, you had 2 playoff games end in overtime. You had one starting quarterback after winning that's going to be out the rest of the way. It's going to generate a ton of conversation. You had a franchise with maybe the greatest run of a lot of our lifetimes that's now back in the AFC Championship game. The storylines are almost endless, and the NFL doesn't even need that to garner all that attention. They're going to get it anyway. And now they almost leapfrog what a lot of us love to talk about here, and that's college football, to gain and dominate more of the conversation. Are you alluding to the fact that there needs to be a directive to move some of this back? What's the answer to that? To not have to go as much toe-to-toe with the NFL as it feels like the playoff is right this second?
Well, number one, it's not going to get any better because that train has left. If you could have stopped this perhaps years ago and bargained with the NFL to get Saturday night, this past Saturday night, and let the NFL play with Monday. But they don't want Monday after the first round because it makes it complicated. So I think the only answer is what you have heard is start the season a week early, start the playoffs earlier, and that bumps up against the Army-Navy game, which we now are aware that the President of the United States has gotten involved with declaring that a no-fly zone on that Saturday. So something has to give here, but I think we have to rearrange the calendar, and I think that clearly means that the SEC, ACC, Big Ten championship games as we know it have to go away, and something else needs to take that place. That could be a play-in game. It could be something. But we really are wasting a lot of time starting in December. We're wasting 2 weekends, the SEC championship weekend and then the Army-Navy weekend. And I know people are going to get upset. I'm not criticizing the Army-Navy game. That weekend has to be utilized by college football.
Paul, you won't find any pushback from me. I love the Army-Navy game. It's my favorite game of the year. But there's no reason why we can't bookend it with some college football playoff games. I mean, to me, it's like they can coexist. But the problem is, Paul, they've already put NFL games up against Army-Navy. They've already put other games on that Saturday. Doesn't the NFL play that Saturday?
They do. I'm not positive. I think the NFL starts playing Saturdays the week of the first round of the playoffs, which would be I think it's the next week, Greg, but don't hold me to that. But yeah, you at some point you understand this. You just have to. You can't worry about the NFL. You just have to say these are our marquee games. We don't need to be playing them every. I mean, right this year the college football playoff has been on what Thursday, Wednesday. I think Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, and Monday. That's too many. This is a weekend sport. It doesn't need to be played on a Wednesday or Thursday night.
Paul, always appreciate the time. Great stuff as always. Definitely look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Paul Finebaum joining us each and every week. Thanks to our friends at CraneWorks. Always good to catch up with Paul. Always good to hear what he wants to get into once he wants to talk about the expanded playoff, something we need to discuss, and we'll do it next right here on Jocks. The NFL did not play on the day of the Army-Navy game this past season, just to kind of clarify that moving forward. Something that could potentially become a further portion of the conversation. There was discussion over the weekend about documentation being signed that will sort of freeze that window only for Army and Navy by the president, which I don't think any of us would push back on because we want to keep that game having its own window and being able to survive by its own. The entire day, now that's something that's already been disrupted a little bit. Could it be disrupted further? We'll have to wait and see. But I do think that the discussion around this expansion, Greg, 16, we've kind of sat back and thought, yeah, it's probable. We think it's going there. 24, I'm with you. I can't fathom it. And if you go to 24, I don't think that there's any way you don't do something with the regular season. It's just not possible to be able to do that, in my opinion.
Haven't we already figured out that bye weeks are not really that advantageous? Teams coming off a bye are 1-7. It's not an accident. So why are we trying to figure out a format to 24 where teams are still receiving a bye? It's absurd to me. Well, and you could say, well, the FCS does it. Well, the FCS also, nobody's watching FCS regular season games. So what are we doing? Are people still going to care? Yeah, of course. But, should we really give a team with 4 losses access to the playoffs? Or 5 losses in some cases? No way. You can't do that. It'd be insane.
It's wild to think about, but those conversations are taking place. Those conversations are happening. And as Paul pointed out again, there is a little bit of a sticking point with the SEC and the Big Ten. SEC wanted to go to 16, apparently, and Tony Petitti in the Big Ten wanting to go to 24 teams in the college football playoff, which just I don't know how many people hear that and don't immediately say, how do you go to 24 teams? Brett McMurphy reported yesterday no agreement on college football playoff expansion after commissioners met Sunday. Quote, we still have more work to do. Big Ten's Tony Petitti said discussions ongoing. Big 12's Brett Yormark said if no agreement on new format by Friday, playoff will remain at 12 teams in 2026. Do you believe that in and of itself? I understand there's a deadline, but do you believe that that's really it for next season?
Yeah, I think based on what all my understanding conversation, we better know by Thursday. That's what it sounds, or Friday or whatnot, the 23rd, right? I know nothing beyond that's what I was told the deadline is. Now, is that a self-imposed deadline? I don't know, but I've been told that if we don't have anything by then, 12 is what we're at. I think we'll be at 16. I feel pretty confident we'll be at 16, but I don't think there's a huge appetite to change. The SEC just got 5 teams in.
Well, Chris Lowe did say that the SEC, there's an SEC source that tells him they'd rather stay at 12 than go to 24, which I
agree.
I can see.
Yes.
I understand that.
That is accurate.
I just don't think that we've seen workarounds before. I don't think this slams the door shut on definitively being at 12 again if we don't hear something Thursday night at midnight.
I think we're going to be at 16. I think ultimately Petitti's going to look at it and say, okay, well, 24 is what I would like to do ideally. Let's just get some movement here. Let's see how it works, and we can tweak it again. In a couple of years, we'll tweak it again if we need to. We'll reevaluate. We'll do a look in, we do all this stuff. And I think if it goes to 16, then all of a sudden the rights become available again, and then it becomes real interesting. It's there's a lot to this. There's a lot more going on here than what people probably think about. I think we'll end up at 16 because, frankly, there have been fair conversations in the last 2 years because we have a 2-year sample size, correct, of 12-team playoff, and we do have a very fair debate that can be had about the teams last year that were ranked 12, 13, 14, 15 that would have made the playoffs or made the postseason. This is a very fair and logical discussion. Some people thought South Carolina, some people thought Ole Miss, some people thought Miami, some people thought Alabama, whatever. Frankly, I think all those teams were flawed in 2024, but there was a fair and logical discussion to be had on their behalf. This year, very fair and logical discussion to be had on behalf of a BYU, a logical discussion to be had on behalf of a Notre Dame. I think those teams that are 12 through 15 are pretty good, right? And I think Notre Dame could have made a run and maybe won the whole thing. Miami, of course, last team in, now making a run, could win the whole thing. I think those teams between 12 and 15 are absolutely capable of getting hot and making a run. However, we start getting to teams 21, 22, 23, you can have it, bro. I'm out. I'm sorry. I'm out.
You're out.
You're not out.
You don't have to like it. You don't have to say it's good, but you're not. Let's Let's not get
I mean,
carried
I'm still
away.
gonna watch.
You're not out.
I'm still gonna watch, but
course.
I'm not gonna sit there and bang the drum on Team 25 and say, "Golly, man, that's really unfortunate they didn't make the playoff." Whereas I'm sitting there on selection day saying to Notre Dame fans and believing this, "Golly, that's really unfortunate," because I think they're really good. But it's such as life. You can't lose your first 2 games against the first 2 good teams you play. Like, it's pretty simple. And I don't know. I like there being healthy debate. The debate loses its teeth when you're comparing really, really, really average football teams. And when you start getting to 24 and 25, 26, we're talking about really average football teams.
The debate has been a part of what has made it great for a very long time. Steven Isbell tweeting into the show at Mac and Cube. You can always be a part there. Go to 13 regular season games with 11 conference games instead of conference championships. Have the 1 seeds in each league get a true bye. Have the wild card games the week after the regular season ends and start college football playoff after. See, the problem with that is I feel like we already have that.
Yeah.
And do we need that again? Just because it's more teams that can play at very different levels that are structured in very different ways, but we just want to call it something different. Like, I agree with Greg that the debate has made it great, and the regular season with said debate and what conference is best and what venues are more difficult to play in and who has better coaches and the weather and all the different things that we take into consideration, that begins to go away when it's just, hey, we're going to let a large portion of these teams in, so it doesn't matter anyway. And now we're talking about jockeying for seeding and do you need to play your guys late in the season? And I mean, the only thing we're not going to be talking about in college football at that point is do you tank for a high draft pick?
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to be very similar conversations. So I'm with you on the fact that that might not be necessary. And to go further against my point that I made earlier, College Football Playoff Board Chair Mark Keenum said that today was not a deadline day. This is yesterday. The deadline is coming Friday for any format change to be implemented next year, to which Ross Dellinger added to, ESPN officials will not grant another extension of the deadline. That's coming from Rich Clark. So while I may sit with the mindset of contracts were made to be broken, I'm not sure the first person to ever say that I need to credit for that. I do somewhat believe that, though. Rich Clark saying that ESPN and others will not allow this to go a little bit further. So maybe in court with what you said, Greg, it's got to be done by Thursday night at midnight, or else we're going to be at 12 again next year. You believe we'd go to 16?
I think we'll be at 16. Here's the problem, though. Like, I don't think the appetite from ESPN's vantage point, like God's honest truth, and I'm sure from Fox's vantage point, it probably is. I'm sure like the other networks would love to get in the playoff mix. I'm sure they would. But ESPN, if you look at the ratings for the other 2 first round games, I mean, it was like 6.1 million and 3.9 million. It's like those games cost a lot of money, like to the playoff. And there's a reason why ESPN spun off some of those games to TNT. Like, they cost a lot of money. So everyone's sitting there saying, oh, well, ESPN's money hungry. They just want more games. That's not true. I can tell you that from pretty good vantage point and pretty good perspective. ESPN only views a handful of games in each round as super valuable because guess what? The amount of money that they paid for the way the contract was structured, the amount of money that they paid in the 4-team playoff era for the national championship and the 2 semis, now each one of those games was assigned a certain value. Let's just say $100 million. I don't even know what it was, but just for simple math. Basically, for the 4-team playoff, ESPN paid $300 million. Just like I said, simple math. I don't know what the number was. 100 for the Natty, 100 for each semi. Perfect. Now you have 11 games. Guess what the actual rate is that ESPN has to pay? $1.1 billion. Because every one of those games is prorated at the exact same amount as the semis in the national championship from the 4-team playoff era. Now you go to 16, guess what? You now are having to stroke a check for another $400 million. Because if you add 4 more games, guess what? Each one of those games costs just the same as the semifinals. At least that's the way I understand it. So, and dude, $100 million for a game that rated 3.9 million people on TNT is not great. So, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know exactly what it costs. Maybe there's different language in it, but I don't think that the appetite from ESPN is to make it bigger. It's not good from the television executive's vantage point. I can see where it's good for the conferences, because more teams in means more money potentially. I can see where they would like that, and where they would like more access for their teams. So, for example, this year you go to 24. I mean, think about how many more Big Ten teams would have gotten in. They had the three of the top 5 seeds, but look how many more Big Ten teams would have gotten in if we expanded to 24. Look how many more SEC teams would have gotten in if we expanded to 24. Like, that's more money, which creates a bigger gap between the Big Ten, the SEC, and the ACC, and the Big 12. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm not in favor of expanding past 16. I don't even like going to 16. Frankly, I don't like going past 8. I'd leave it at 8. But what do I know? That ship has sailed, and it's water under the bridge.
Absolutely. All right, a lot more to get to on this. We don't want to spend a ton of time on it today. We've got all week, and then we want to spend time on the game tonight. We have a Max Ball Monday with the national championship game coming tonight. Rubik's Cube coming later your way to let the computers decide who wins this game tonight. We did mention a couple of big games from over the weekend, though, not in college football. Quick NFL segment to kind of wrap up what happened and what Championship Sunday is going to look like. We'll do all that next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You can always listen online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Quick NFL segment here in just a moment. If you miss any podcasts, they're right there on the app. The app will also direct you to our YouTube page where you can watch every day live or go back and check it out. Search Jocks945 or just tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. They continue to provide the best possible experience for everyone that goes up there, and there's a reason why 75% of their business is repeat customers. I'm a repeat customer. I've bought 3 vehicles from Bill Smith. Will buy my 4th as well. I absolutely love the experience that I deal with Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager all the time. Text those guys. They become good friends. I know you guys will understand. Second you take the short drive up I-65, exit 310, Highway 31, get yourself a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT 4x4. It's really nice, high-end trim level, beautiful vehicle. $67,700 is the list price that you pay here locally. If you take the short drive up to Coleman, you'd get it for just under $53,000. It's $15,000 off the sticker price. How are they able to discount it so much? Because their overhead is lower than those that are in town. You can just go short drive, 45 minutes at most, up to Coleman and save a ton of money. Yeah, I'll sign up for that every day and twice on Saturday. So take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, quickly before we go into this NFL segment, you can leave the music. It's fine. I don't care. It's fine. Just a couple tweets coming into the show that I wanted to get to because I don't know when we'll go back to this. Steven Isbell says, we don't already have that. There's a 4+ week layoff. I'm saying start the playoffs with wild card weekend immediately after the regular season and move right into the next round the next weekend. That's what's causing issues with teams coming off buys. Via the music playing, Damien, you're in to help us with our NFL segment each week. When does the wild card round start in the NFL?
There is the next week after the.
It's the next week.
It's the next week
so
after the
regular season ends, then we start the wild card.
We immediately start the playoffs.
So we do have that right now. Got it. Noted. Okay, good. Okay. So I'm really confused there.
Right.
Saying we did have that, but we don't have that. I could have sworn we do have that, which confirmation now that we do actually have that. So, all right, let's go to some NFL games over the weekend. What a weekend.
Oh, boy.
Of NFL football. There was one clunker, but I don't think anybody expected that game to go that far as it did. Start with our blowout in Seattle, 41-6. Maybe you thought Seattle was going to win. That's fine. I don't think many people thought it was going to look this way.
That was a bloodbath. No other way to describe it.
Honestly, just watching it, I expected to look up in Seattle to have 275 yards rushing. Like especially the way it started to go late.
Right.
It was like Kenneth Walker just was doing whatever he wanted to late in that game.
And listen, I know everybody's so high on Kyle Shanahan and what the San Francisco – now, they did have a lot of injuries, but even if they were at 100%, I don't know if they would have really matched up with what
It might have been
Seattle
41-26.
Yeah, right. I think Seattle was just locked in. Like, they weren't going to be stopped.
But one of the injuries over time that people have talked about has been Christian McCaffrey. In, out, he's available, and you run the ball 27 times for 108 yards, and that's supposed to be what you do.
Right. But also, Brock Purdy didn't have much time to throw that thing around.
That's fair.
He did.
But Seattle ran 33 times for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns.
It
was a complete beatdown.
Yeah.
It was a complete and utter. It was probably as one-sided a game I've seen in the postseason in a minute.
All right, 41-6, Seattle advances. So now get to our competitive, more intriguing games that we had over the weekend.
Started off Saturday. The Denver Broncos in overtime knock off the Buffalo Bills 33-30, and in that win, the second to last play, Bo Nix goes down. He walks off, and it's like, oh man, maybe he rolled an ankle or anything. Nah, man, it's a broken bone.
You can see him when he's interviewing with Tracy. He's favoring. He's on one leg.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it feels fine. I was just nervous, and it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe it'll be all right.
So now,
fractured ankle.
Yeah, the Denver Broncos advance to the AFC Championship game, and former Auburn quarterback Jarrett Stidham will be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship.
Wow, you sound like you have no confidence there.
Listen, there's other ways to win the ball game, but he could have a Nick Foles type run where
Probably not against New England, though.
Yeah, that's the other
I think
thing.
he's going to play well. Call me crazy. I think he'll play well. Like I think Stidham will do just fine. Like what they ask Bo Nix to do is not outrageous.
No, it is fair. But they do have some design quarterback. I mean, they had some big conversions early in that game with his legs on read plays. Sure. And because it was funny, my 8-year-old's like, whoa, no defense. Look at those run lanes. I'm like, well, you got to understand. He has the option there to do. So it's kind of cool to explain some of those things to him. But that's what Stidham's not going to give you. I do agree with you in the passing game, but how differently does that allow New England to defend him, I think will be the question to the answer.
Yeah, and then speaking of the New England Patriots, they knock off the Houston Texans 28-16. C.J. Stroud basically just gave New England the game, and New England was just like, all right, we appreciate this. Like, if you're gonna give us the ball this many times, yeah, we're about to win this ball.
All right, hold on. So he was hit on multiple.
Two.
Correct.
And then the other two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just he was hit a couple times on balls that were somewhat deflected or forced to be errant passes, but yeah, it's not a great day for C.J. Stroud. No.
He semi-tried.
I mean, not only that, he's missing throws. I mean, he's one hopping at the guy. He was all over the place.
Yeah,
that was a tough day, man.
He kind of semi-tried to give it away to the Steelers.
Right, and you didn't think it could get worse. Like, I went into that, and after the first interception, it's like, okay, well, bad throw, it happens. But then, like Greg's point, he was short hopping, 5-yard out routes. It was, oh man, he might be a head case. Like, this may be over.
20 of 47 in the game. GMAC, there are some people that are saying this is kind of continued to happen since the rookie season. Are you concerned moving forward if you're Houston that this may not be your guy?
Yeah. I mean, it was. Yesterday was tough sledding, man. Like, I was a tough watch. As a guy, I'm always rooting for the quarterbacks. I'm gonna be honest with you, Drake May didn't look very good either. That's what I think is amazing. Like, ball security. Oh my gosh, the ball security from Drake May, the ball security from Josh Allen, the ball security from
Caleb Williams,
from C.J. Stroud, the ball security. What are we doing? This carrying the ball like a loaf of bread nonsense is ridiculous. I mean, it was brutal, man. Like, all throughout the weekend, there was a lot of stuff that was like, golly, my head's shaking here.
So you're saying it's bad ball?
Wrap up our weekend, though.
What Josh Allen did at the end of the half,
oh, boy.
Honestly, that should be illegal in 48 states. Yeah. That is so bad. It is unbelievable.
The catch from Kayshon Boutte, I know you want to get that in.
Snag. Absolute snag.
Denver catch or interception?
That was an interception.
I don't know how it's not.
Right. And everybody's like, oh, he had control. No, he didn't. Like, the defensive back came
up
with the ball. Exactly.
Where were you on that one, Greg?
Catch.
What?
I guess we'll have to discuss it on the other side.